This is Sniper Elite VR Winter Warrior, the standalone only follow-up to 2021's Sniper Elite VR that once again places you in the role of the protagonist from the first title in another harrowing adventure to strike at the heart of the Nazi regime. This releases November 30th, 2023 for the Quest 2 and Up headsets for roughly $15 US, and for this review, we checked out the game on the Quest 2 and 3. Does this sequel deliver on all the sniping goodness this franchise is known for? Let's find out. Hello VR soldiers, before we get to it, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and leave us a comment with your thoughts on this release. I'm Ryan for the VR Grid, now let's do this. I enjoyed the first VR Sniper Elite game, perhaps more than most, as I thought it delivered a satisfying and varying campaign that took me through various World War II era locales. With that said, I did enjoy the game on PC and PSVR, and while I did dabble with the Quest 2 version, the higher quality presentation of the tethered headsets really brought that game to the next level. So, when I found out that Winter Warrior would be getting a Quest-only release, I was a little disheartened by that news, but tempered my misgivings in favor of just hopping back behind enemy lines to take it to the Nazi scum and their machines of war. The opening moments of Winter Warrior find you back at the shooting range, where you learn about the basics of controls and gunplay, which is standard for an FPS, though to throw any item, grenades or otherwise, you can toss them manually or use a button press and reticle for more accurate throws. Weapons are handled in realistic fashion in regard to reloading, and you'll have the option to use various pistols, machine guns, and shotguns, but the stars of the show are these scoped rifles, which feel fantastic in hand and offer up X-ray kill cams, one of the most satisfying rewards after a successful shot. You'll have to contend with stealth sections that require you to stay out of sight, melee kills, as well as collectibles and items hidden throughout each stage. What this all makes for is a satisfying 3.5 hour campaign with plenty of replay value if you care about finding all those World War II era items or tackling each of the mission's bonus objectives. Those could be just getting a certain score, a certain number of specific kills, not setting off an alarm, and a host more challenges that could potentially change how you tackle a stage. Once you do beat the game, you get access to 2 additional modes, Last Stand and Sniper Hunt. The former of which is a wave-based mode where you need to last as long as you can, while the latter has you tasked with hunting down elite German snipers. I couldn't really care less about the Last Stand, as it's a run-of-the-mill wave shooter, but Sniper Hunt is interesting, in that you need to kill some regular troops first in order to lure out the snipers, and move from position to position while repeating the same pattern, and it's hard, thanks to the enemy snipers having deadly accuracy, though it easily offers up the most challenge in Winter Warrior with its addictive, but sometimes frustrating gameplay. Now, while I did find the overall campaign and story enjoyable, by no means is the game perfect thanks in large part to terrible AI and a host of other minor factors that do hamper the fun. Whenever sniping is emphasized, Sniper Elite VR shines, and as I took cover to dispatch foes, I was gleeful at every successful shot, oftentimes triggering that X-ray camera to see all the internal damage I did to my target. From up on high I could see the enemy closing in, and taking them out one after another had me feeling like the war hero this game presents me to be. However, when the action was a little more close quarters, things get a little more suspect. Nazi soldiers will walk the same paths over and over, a classic stealth game trope, making for an easier time to pick and choose when and how you want to kill them, but should anyone be alerted to your presence, things can get weird. If enemies see you, a reticle above their heads will quickly fill up, giving a quick second or two to find cover before you are officially discovered. If that reticle fills up, well, they are onto you and will head your way to try and kill you. You can't take too many hits, so it's best to take them out quick, and when facing 1 or 2 foes, things go okay. But when a base has been alerted to your presence, and soldiers come at you like lemmings, it can be hilarious. At a few points during the campaign, I just sat at a doorway while Nazis came at me, one by one, killing them and creating a pile of bodies that was nothing short of comical. If soldiers discover a body, an alert may be raised, and for some reason, even if I was hidden in shadow, they immediately knew exactly where I was and took care of me. The line of sight for Nazi scum is also hilariously limited, and I found myself sneakily coming at them from an angle that no human, save for a blind one, could ignore. These issues really did push me to snipe whenever I could, which I think makes for a better experience, and though running and gunning is an option, that'll probably ruin the game. These stealth elements are also a little hit and miss, with you having to press a face button to duck, which makes your steps inaudible, but given just how much the game emphasizes not being seen, I think I played almost the entirety of the game ducking, and no, you can't go prone here. When in shadow, your vision gets darker, indicating that you are harder to see, but accompanying that is a noise that indicates when you are and aren't hidden, which gets fairly grating, especially considering just how unnecessary it seemed at times, given that enemies need to look right at you to see you anyways, and that some stages constantly have you navigating from light to dark areas quite often. None of this is bad per se, but it did become annoying during some stages. That said, sniping from the shadows is still fun, and even sneaking up on foes to whack them unconscious with my gun was a good time, with a few of my favorite moments happening when you need to time your shots with a passing plane or gust of wind to mask their noise. Outside of the poor AI, nothing in here is broken, and depending upon the stage, some of these stealth elements are used to great effect, but on the same token, some stages feel much more aligned to closer quarters combat, which really just isn't that satisfying. Moving on to presentation, Winter Warrior isn't going to win any awards for best visuals. It's not awful looking, but after just playing Assassin's Creed Nexus, it feels like more could have been done here to increase immersion. The winter setting can make some outside levels look bland, though the campaign does change things up nicely with its mix of indoor and outdoor stages. You'll visit an array of locations from a small village, a mansion, cave system, and a few Nazi bases, and while it is nice to see just how often things change up, the reduced texture quality and the lack of dynamic lighting really has the entirety of this game looking unimpressive. No matter where I was, everything around me just looked flat, thanks in large part to the sharp edges that make every building, box, handrail, or whatever else I was looking at. There is also some pop-in throughout the campaign, with no noticeable improvements between the Quest 2 and 3, outside of the slight bump in clarity and resolution offered up by the newer HMD. It's not bad, but outside of those kill cams, I don't recall a single moment where I was impressed by the presentation, as it all just comes off as serviceable. Now, as for the kill cams, they still don't compare well to the PC and PS versions of the first VR game, but damn it, I still enjoyed them here just as much as ever, and it was so satisfying to watch my bullet blast apart skulls, deflate lungs, and shatter bones, making each kill even more vicious. Sound design is alright, with some decent 3D audio in use, which makes it a little easier to hear when enemies may be approaching or walking away from you. Each stage has a soundtrack playing that falls into the background, but makes everything feel just a little more cinematic. It's not perfect, as it was sometimes hard to tell if soldiers were above or below me, but with most of the stealthy stages being somewhat flat, this was really an issue. Nazi soldiers will spit out some dialogue when they see you or are searching for you, though for the most part, they remain silent. The story plays out from the point of view as an older man, recounting his brave tales and narrating the stages, with each level completed bringing you back to his farmhouse where he sets up the next stage. If you've played the first game, the storytelling format is nearly identical, and outside of that annoying stealth noise, it's a solid audio package. I enjoyed this next chapter in the Sniper Elite VR series, despite the issues I had with it. It did feel a little more formulaic and samey at times, but given the shorter length campaign, that might not be a bad thing. Despite my misgivings, this is on the cheaper side of things, making it hard not to recommend to just about anyone interested in feeling like a badass World War II sniper. I'm going to give Sniper Elite VR Winter Warrior a 6.5 out of 10. It has some issues, but sniping in VR is so much fun. If you enjoyed this review, please do all the YouTube things to help us out. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.